Will Snapshot 7 have any improvements regarding replayability of the game? For example, progression system, tasks, quests, leveling up, customization, characters. This feels like a loaded question. I feel like you're a member of the team asking this because literally every single one of those features we were just talking about in our planning sessions for snapshots. I can't reveal a lot of the details of Snapshot 7 yet, but what I can tell you is those specific features are probably something that are mostly going to be coming online later than 7. There's a lot of really cool stuff that we are working on with 7 that is it's hard to explain. It's like self-contained feature sets. But all of that stuff is coming. It's on the schedule. It's on the timeline. We have been, diving deep on the designs of those systems, but I do not expect those to be live with 7. When can we expect? Taco says, when can we expect to have more lore-driven aspects of the game, such as quests, factions, similar to what Chris just said, to do missions and stuff like that? A lot of that. So let me give you because I answered the question with Chris, because I think that stuff is coming after 7. But let me give you a little insight and inside baseball on why that stuff would be coming later and not in 7. So a lot of that, not all of it is dependent on this, but a lot of that stuff really starts to get meaningful and meaty and start to do compelling things with those systems when we have more of the tower completed. Right now, everything takes place in Snapshot or in Sector 3, which means all the fighting's in Sector 3, every single player who's in the match is in Sector 3, and you don't have any of that strategic ability to sort of be like, oh, I have a quest that requires me to be in Sector 2, and then let me do that, and then head up over to, Sector, 5 or something. That's when it starts becoming compelling. Because imagine, I play Fortnite a lot. I do a lot of questing in Fortnite, mostly quests and challenges. And imagine if everybody was trying to do the same quests and the same challenges and the same POI. It would be a madhouse, right? That in itself would be kind of fun, but it's kind of not the intent of the questing and challenge systems. So I think a lot of that stuff really starts to become real and meaningful when you get the larger strategic sector-to-sector gameplay in, that people are deciding which sector they're starting in based on the challenges, the quests, the individual goals that they have, and not everybody is in Sector 3. So that's one of the reasons that those features have been less prioritized earlier on. Snapshot 7, we're trying to work on a lot of features that are sort of bridging the gap between player hideout and the tower, as well as pushing a lot of the tools and the abilities that you guys need on the UGC side to start creating some of those things that are different than DEADROP. Tiger says, do we have an update on console? Not a meaningful one. We have had further conversations with Microsoft and Sony. A lot of back-end red tape. It's the most boring update in the world. It's a lot of discussions. It's a lot of just getting through it. The thing is, our pre-alphas, what you are playing right now and what you've been playing all the way up till Snapshot 5, are so much earlier than anything else that's ever been playable on consoles, right? Luckily, the console ecosystem has evolved a lot where they do have a concept of early access, but we're not even there yet in terms of feature set. We are still in pre-alpha access, which just means there's a lot more hurdles we have to go to get them out on console. It is on our schedule. We are working hard as possible. We are in deep communications with them. Luckily, we don't have any blockers yet. There's nothing preventing us from shipping on console other than the progress of the game getting to the point that it needs to be at. And we are working closer to that every single day. So as soon as I know, trust me, I want to play on console so bad. As soon as I have concrete information on that, or anytime it makes a milestone, I will be screaming it from the rooftops. You would not have to wait for an AMA to hear about that. Mr. Spaceman says, first off, I want to say the Snapshot launch was great. Thank you, Aravante, for a little surprise. I'll try to keep my questions sweet and short. What can you tell me about the car gameplay coming to car gameplay? What car gameplay are you talking about, Spaceman? I'm not familiar with announcing any card gameplay. Two, what are some of the gadgets in development for the game, and what kind of gadgets would you like to see? So the gadgets that there's a lot of different types of things that we are prototyping. I really like the extraction specific gadgets, right? Like, and I feel like I don't know because we haven't developed it yet, but I feel like something like the wingsuit fits into that, right? Something that could be used of like, hey, I brought this in. I want to get out of the tower a very specific way. I planned it in advance. I think that stuff's really cool. Stuff that increases the ways that I can get out without needing to like go to one of the extraction points that is I know going to be highly contested. I like those types of gadgets. Other than that, there's a lot of debate on the different ones. I think a lot of the founder feedback is going to play into which gadgets we get going because gadgets are really interesting because the spectrum of what you could do with gadgets is so wide that, you know, some of it I feel like pushes too far into sci-fi. Some of it I think is just too boring and has been done before. And I'd like us to fall somewhere in the middle. And I think that's where a lot of the founder feedback is going to come in is like, where on that spectrum do we, the community, want to see us land, right? Are we okay pushing really sci-fi? Or as a community, do we want to stay a little closer to realism? I mean, right now we are already outside the realms of realism. You know, the existence takes place in, you know, 2020B. It's as if the 80s have never ended. So like we definitely are not in the present day that we live in. So we do have a lot of flexibility to do really cool stuff like the zipline boosters and that we just introduced in Snapshot 6. So I think as a community, we should be discussing how far do we want to go in the sci-fi element with these gadgets, because we still have the sins, right? Right now they're used to respawn. Like when a claw dies in the tower, they can send their sin in to sort of like get a second chance. And we have a lot of stuff on that side that we're exploring and going deep on. So I think that's a lot of where you're going to see us go in the sci-fi area. What is your reaction to the conspiracy crew's links to complete your puzzles and messages? My puzzles and messages. Listen, man, what our Avanti has going on in his own thing. But I love sitting in, listening to you guys. When he dropped that video at like 2 a.m. the other night, I was wrecked the next day. Staying up till like 3 a.m., listening to you guys decipher it, go through it all. Last night, yesterday, like it's fun to watch. What kind of revive? And for anybody who doesn't know about that, drop into the conspiracy channel here on Discord. Conspiracy theories and clues. Watch some of the videos that have been done. Arctics did a really good one. Mayor has done a really good one. Helmet Fire is doing some recaps of it. Like, there's a lot of people out there doing videos to catch you up. This is just the beginning. So you are not too late. You are not too early. They have taken a step into the existence through the eyes of our Avanti. And so, like, definitely get involved because it's a lot of fun. It's a nice way to sort of get more knowledge about this existence that we live in beyond what is available in game right now, right? And the beautiful part is when all those things start to come together. And I feel like the more you know before it comes together, the more impactful that's going to be when we start experiencing it in game together. What kind of revive respawn system would you like to see in the future? I think the Sin system is going to evolve a lot. I know Quinn has a lot of ideas with that. There's a lot of deep diving with how that will change and expand over time. So we're still going to go in that direction. It's just the impact of those sins rather than just being a respawn mechanic is really where that's going to go. What are your thoughts on implementing new kinds of AI and AI systems? We talked about this a little bit. I think there is a lot. There's a lot of different ones, right? So since we released Sector 3, we've all been so focused on Sector 3, but I don't want us to lose the foresight to remember that this tower is many sectors, right? And each of those sectors has a different personality, a visual style to it, a purpose within the tower, right? Because think of the refiner state is a massive city state that is self-contained and self-operating. It is not reliant on the cities around it that it was built inside, right? Which means that it needs its own facilities and sanitation and power sources and, all kinds of stuff. So all of that functionality of being a self-contained city state has to live within the refiner state, which means the different spaces are having a lot of personality. Now, how this applies to your question of different types of AI, I think that also means, how the denizens and the cleaners that operate in each of those sectors are going to be very different, right? And what I mean by that is we have only just now experienced the cleaners in Sector 3. And Sector 3 is the cold storage, right? It's a kind of a harsh environment. It's a very industrial environment. It's where a lot of the processing of space dust happens, right? Like it's been refined, it's coming through there, it's being packaged up. And so the cleaners in that are very industrial. They're heavily armored. They're sort of, they're guys there working with a purpose. Now, if we get to more populated sectors where more of the people who live in the tower or more the public interacts with, you might not have that type of cleaner, right? They might not want that presence in that area. And then the presence of the cleaners that they need in that area might look and operate very differently. And that's also going to mean their behavior trees are different, like all of that stuff. So that's what I'm really interested in exploring is how does each sector feel distinct from the previous sector, not only in visual and extractions and shutdown mechanics, but also AI and behaviors, which will impact how you play those sectors. That is the stuff that I'm really excited to see. Do you see a mod system expanding in the future? Do you see the mod system? Are you probably need a little bit more clarity on what you mean by mod system. Is that like modding the game, like the UGC side of it? Because if so, yes, entirely. Like, as I've said before, we are exposing our tools and our ability to augment the game and expand the game and create your own original creations. Like, we're exposing all of that to the community. Oh, wait, you said weapon mod system. Oh, I completely missed that word, even though it's in all caps. Do you see the weapon mod system expanding in the future? Yeah, there are a few more systems that we are looking at that I would love your opinion on with the weapon modification system. So we have played around with it a lot, but have generally kept it the same besides expanding the type of weapons and the type of attachments you can do. We do have that mod chip that is available, and that mod chip is really interesting because it allows you to modify the stats of a weapon in different ways, and I think there's a lot of flexibility of what we could do with that. And then a lot of the debates we're having right now is how universal should parts for a weapon be, right? Because like there was a debate in Snapshot 6 that got settled, but there was a debate in Snapshot 6 about should every weapon, like should you have class-based attachments that are very granular, right? Like, oh, this barrel can only go on assault rifles, or this barrel can only go on SMGs, or should barrels be barrels and barrels can go on any weapon that has a barrel, right? And stocks can be stocks and they can go on any weapon that have a stock, or should you have assault rifle stocks and SMG stocks? And so those are a lot of the granular conversations that we're having. And I'm really happy with the balance we have now, where sometimes there are specialty stocks that only work on a class of weapons, but generally stocks can be stocks, and as long as your weapon has a stock, you can do it. I think the more freedom that we have to customize our weapons and not have to look for very granular specific parts, the more fun it is. But that's one of the things that your guys' feedback will impact greatly. Oh, somebody edited in the weapon mod. Oh, thank you. Do you think a new key system will open before consoles arrives. So by key system, I think you mean access pass. I do. Yes, I think we will greatly. I think we will greatly increase the amount of people playing the game prior to console launch, and I think that's a good thing because the moment we introduce UGC, the moment we introduce console, there's a lot of fracturing of the community that happens, and I want to make sure we get our player counts as much as possible. So, now is the time to start identifying your friends who you want to bring into the community, right? Because, next Friday we have an event, bring friends to that. In the future, we're going to be opening up the access pass system, and we're getting very close to that point where we want to start bringing in much larger amounts of players into the community because we're going to be introducing stuff that is going to start like diverting people's attention. Right now, we're all playing the same thing, right? You're either playing Proving Ground or you're playing Sector 3. In the future, that will not be the case. You will have the option to play that or play something that is a separate matchmaking queue. And we want to make sure that we can get our player numbers up high enough to justify that sort of fragmenting that happens. Are there any ways you'd like to expand on what will come of character customization? Is it still leaning towards customized more than less? It is leaning more customized more than less. I'm going to save that question for Darren in the future because he's been diving really deep on that. And I don't want to butcher like how he describes it. But yes, there is generally a lot more customization than like total skin conversion, right? Like, and for those who don't know what that is, like Fortnite is a total skin conversion, right? You're either Batman or you're Spider-Man or you're some original Fortnite character. Where we are leaning a little bit more approach where a character is a lot more granular parts. It's modular parts that you piece together. So you could be a very specific character and your friend could be that same character, but you look different because you changed this piece of clothing or that piece of armor or whatever. So, you could get unity out of like, oh, we're all the same character, but we all have 5 distinct looks to that character. That's the direction that I'm a really big fan of and that we are still leaning towards. This guy who I can't see your username for some reason because of the new, how sometimes Discord, when you have the new username, it just shows the first letter in like 3 periods. That is what's happening with
streamer mode, Rob.
What's that?
You have streamer mode on, most likely.
Oh, I do have streamer mode on. Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
Oh, there we did. Disabled it. Man, I was always wondering why I was doing that. All right. Shots will fire. Hideout or shooting range soon. So the player hideout, where the shooting range is included, has been going through like major updates and revisions. And there will come a time that is reintroduced, but I'm not sure when yet. A piece of it is connected to a lot of the stuff we're doing to Snapshot 7, specifically the garage for some specific reason. But I don't think the full player hideout and range is going to be reintroduced until that full thing is ready to be enjoyed. We're getting to that stage where like arting stuff is becoming more and more important. And when that happens, it means like, things might go under construction for a little bit while it gets arted and optimized and then reintroduced. Has movement been changed from Snapshot? Has movement been changed in Snapshot 6 from Snapshot 5? Can you explain when player movement is and what's on the horizon? There has been like we introduced the adrenaline thing that impacts like your movement speed in it. We've kept a lot of the stuff the players have liked, but movement is going to be something that sort of has little changes ever so often, right? Little balancing to adjust for new features that are coming in with new areas of the map. Like if you noticed in Snapshot 6, we introduced Proving Grounds 2, which it allows the ability to scale up those walls, right? So that's a new movement ability that changes. We introduced a gadget that lets you go up the zip line. That changes the movement meta of the game. When we introduce something like a wingsuit, that's going to drastically change the movement of the game. So each time something like that which changes how you can reposition on a map, is introduced, the changing of the core movement is probably going to get tweaked. So we as an audience and a community should always be very diligent on giving fresh feedback every single snapshot, right? About like, oh, hey, this is how I feel about movement now, because that stuff is not static. Because even if you loved movement, like run speed, slide speed, traction of the slide in snapshot 5, you need to refresh that feedback in snapshot 6 based on the new things that was introduced, right? Because it could be like, oh, now that this guy can get to the high ground faster because he has a zipline booster and can mantle the wall or climb the wall, that changes how fast I think I should be able to move when I'm not doing those things. So we should always sort of just be reevaluating those core movement sets every time we introduce a new movement, a meta, if that makes sense. So I would say those are the biggest ways movement have changed, is like the introduction of new movement abilities and the introduction of movement gadget. There were minor tweaks, I think, to like base things like run speed and slide speed and stuff like that. But the detailed patch notes, Allison should have the specifics of the granularity of that. Cairo says, what do the cleaners say? It sounds provocative. Man, I don't speak cleaner. But I do know when they speak. I can't tell you exactly what they're saying, but cleaners will generally let you know when they've arrived. They will also call out to they'll communicate with each other when they've spotted a player. And then I think they will also communicate with each other when they're going to engage that player. So most of what they're saying is they're talking to each other about what they're about to do, right? So they're communicating with their squad. And that's going to change based on different types of cleaners that you interact with. Because right now, a squad is made of different cleaners that have different roles. They're generally not looking for a fight, to be clear. They're not looking for a fight, but they'll take a fight, right? Like if you're getting in their way, even if you're not engaging it, if you're preventing them from doing their job effectively, they will try to clear the area. And they will obviously also fight back if you engage them.
Hey, excuse me. So this one's probably like a stupid question because it's probably miles away off. But since you guys are,
I love stupid questions.
Yeah, well, since you guys I have to ask it. You're not going to be surprised at all. But like, since you guys are talking so much about UGC now, have any more decisions and like development been done on how the eyes are going to operate?
The eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit. Not too much that I can go into right now. Right now, we are focused on the embers, and for those who are not well versed in DEADROP lore or the existence, is claws is everybody who fights in the refiner state, right? Variants are a subculture of claws, because they also fight in the refiner state, but they are part of a more exclusive group. And embers are people who are working both inside and outside the refiner state to sort of introduce new stuff into the existence, right? They're modifying gear and weapons, introducing new weapons, introducing new environments, sort of building out more stuff in the universe. We are focused on those guys right now, which is the embers. The eyes are sort of this overarching thing within the existence that is sort of watching and silently influencing every faction in some way. We are not dived deep into those yet in terms of like exactly how the eyes are going to be impacting you and who is going to be in the eyes. Right now we are focused on mostly the embers, which are going to be the people creating stuff within the existence.
Wicked. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
Howdy.
Hello.
I have a question about the cleaners. It was mentioned that they were going to have a cloaking ability. Is there a reason that wasn't implemented in Snapshot 6, or is that something that we're going to be seeing in the future?
They still have their cloaking ability. So, two things about their cloaking ability. So what has changed is when they use their cloaking ability. So originally in our early playtests, they would cloak as soon as you engage them. right? So say you came across a cleaner cleaning a body, you engage them, they go into cloaking mode, disappear, reposition, and fuck you up. And it was really difficult. It was hard. And then, we were playtesting and rebalancing. So we have not lost their cloaking ability, but now they cloak when they're trying to exfil out of the sector, right? So say they cleaned a body, they have the gear, they want to get out of there, they don't want to engage anybody with the loot. They will try to cloak to leave the sector. Now, that feature is in, so it is up for debate. It is up for playtesting. Maybe in the future we will have, even more intense versions of these cleaners. Like I said, there will be a diversity of cleaners throughout the entire tower eventually, that use their cloaking ability in different ways. That's yet to be seen.
Interesting. Thank you. Are we going to experience any other AI in the tower besides the cleaners? And this is outside of people like the vendor, who are on the main menu, outside of in-game.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Short answer, yes. Cool.
Hello. Thank you guys for doing this. Shout out to everybody that's in the audience too. It's awesome to see how many people care this early. I have only a couple. Since you didn't answer what they say, I guess I'll have to figure it out myself. But are we going to get any new merch soon? And can we get a vendor bobblehead?
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be more merch down the line. I know the team has been working on a lot of different stuff. We've also done a lot of the, as you know, creator-specific merch. So working with a lot of the people, a lot of the variants in our community who are creating content, creating videos. So we've done a few different lines with them that are exclusive to their channels. But we are going to be doing some more wider merch, especially as we get closer to future in-person events. Awesome. I like to do them around in-person events, mostly because then you have one place to wear them, right? And then also a chance to pick it up if for whatever reason ordering online is difficult or sold out.
Yeah. All right, my next one is about the game. One of the first things that people notice whenever they come in and play the game, and one of the things that I hear about the most is optimization. And I'm wondering with how, I know Snapshot 6, or at least from what I think I understand, wasn't originally intended to be this much content in it. I'm just wondering where in the development cycle, since for Snapshot 5, we got the big update, we got a exploit patch somewhere halfway through the snapshot. Where do we expect to see optimization in the development cycle? Whenever we think about the release being sometime next year is what you guys were looking for, and all the sectors that have to come out, all the new content that has to come out, where does optimization happen along the way, or is it specific snapshots that will happen? Yeah, that's my question.
That's a great question. The answer is both, and I'll break down to you how it works. So we have a core tech team ran by Ryan Petrie, and Pace and Andrew, the Sims brothers are on there, and they are focused on optimization all the time, right? In addition to that, Howard's team, our tech art team, is also focused on optimization all the time. And so that's generally focused, Howard's team is generally focused on, are we implementing things in a way that is already as optimized as we can get them, right? They're looking at things like, how are we using the Lumen lighting system in Unreal Engine 5? What bells and whistles are we turning on, and are we turning them on in a way that doesn't kill performance? So especially as Darren and Greg and the art team and Oscar are going in and arting out the environments, they're always thinking that in mind, making sure that we are arting and lighting in a way that keeps performance as good as it can, right? But that's only going to get us so far. So that is generally what we do as we build the game, and they have been doing that. Then there is the serious optimization, which is all right, what can we change? What can we modify on the engine code side, right? On how we render, how we're using the lighting at a global level, how all of our materials are being built. What can we do that gives us huge performance across the board, right? And that's the stuff that I think you're really touching on. because that's going to be the stuff that allows us to enable low-end machines without you going in and modifying your INI file by yourself. But then also it's what's going to allow us to like make sure we're getting really consistent higher frame rate performance on like a wide diversity of machines, right? Because like right now you need a pretty decent rig and the right settings to get like really good frames consistently playing the game. And that is by design right now. And eventually we will get a lot more optimized and accessible to lower end machines. And I'll tell you like when that starts to happen, right? So like right now we are doing the optimizations as we go, but that means that you're building up a bunch of tech debt and optimization debt along the way that eventually you need to take a breather and you need to address that, right? And like I had joked before Snapshot 6 that I told the team of like, hey guys, like chill out. Right, like let's like we're pushing a lot of really big features really fast, which is true, and they've done an amazing job. And Snapshot 7 is not an exception to that rule. Snapshot 7 is huge. There are very big features. There's a lot of new artwork coming in, and we are pushing that art in a very big way, right? Like Darren's team and Oscar and everybody is like pushing that hard in Snapshot 7, which is not like obviously we're always optimization focused, but that's always going to have an impact on that, right? I think after Snapshot 7 is when we go big with Snapshot 7, and then we take a moment to reevaluate and like do a lot of that stuff where it's like, hey, now between Snapshot 7 and the end of the year, let's focus on optimization in very big way, right? Let's focus on art in a very big way. Let's focus on a lot of quality of life design improvements to the core experience. Stuff that we touched about earlier in this AMA, right? Like introducing quest systems, things that add a lot of replayability outside the core extraction loop, a lot of things that enable the feedback that we get from UGC creators, you know, because I know as soon as you're able to make anything in DEADROP, you're going to start hitting walls and you're going to be like, oh, I wish I could do this. Then it's like, okay, well, let's look into what we have to enable for you to do that. I think that happens right after Snapshot 7. I think post Snapshot, because Snapshot 7 has some very big meaty features that are going to impact the game and the community in a very large way. And I think after that, then we have all of the major things that are going to impact performance and optimization. And then it's time to be like, hey, let's take a breather and let's give Howard his time to do the work he really needs to do, because it's hard for Howard's team, the tech art team, and Ryan's team, the core tech team, to optimize things that are in production, right? Because really how you optimize is it's like, hey, this is not finished, but this is done from a feature set standpoint. Okay, now let me work on refining it. It's really hard to do that when we're like trying to build and refine at the same time. And so I think that's going to be happening. I have always said, and I don't remember if you guys remember me saying this in like the early days, like a year ago, is like, you know, I think of the game in stages, right? In 2022, we had the foundation year. That's when we're building fast, we're releasing fast, right? Every 6 to 8 weeks, we're releasing builds, and every single one has like big new features that are foundational to the game, like the weapon systems, the movement systems, the first environment, all that stuff. In 2023, I always described it as the expansion year. Now that we have those foundational elements, now let's expand in it. We had a weapon system, now let's add more weapons. Brad introduced an environment, now let's introduce more environments. You know, we introduced blah, 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 whatever it is. Now let's expand on that. After Snapshot 7, I'd always planned on 2024 being the refinement year, but I actually think it starts sooner. I think it starts as soon as Snapshot 7 development is finished. I think that's when the refinement year begins, in my opinion.
Awesome answer. All right, well, we talked about the heavy pistol whenever we were at 3XP, and I was very impressed. I love that gun. It already feels super iconic, so damn good job, Henry. And then you guys need to
I told you like it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I can't wait for 1v1s in like a small UGC map with that thing. It's going to be super fun. But all right, thank you guys.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm excited for. I think I don't know who it's going to be. I guarantee you it's somebody in this room right now, but I can't wait for someone to create like a modified Sector 3 that's a 1v1 map that uses gun game rules and that heavy pistol. I feel like that's going to be the first UGC mode that takes off. Sure. I'm going to read the ones from like 8 weeks ago. Just mix it up. That's true. All right, I'm gonna just go back to where I left off. Oh yeah, Dagger said, "Did we get as far as we could go at this moment in ARG2?" Man, I don't like answering ARG questions because I don't want to ruin the fun. I don't want to ruin the fun. I do think you are at a good breathing point right now. You guys went so hard yesterday. I think you're at a good breathing point until probably midnight tomorrow, I would say. Let's see. J. Frank, 707077. Is there a plan to leverage the ARG as an additional narrative development factor upon official public release, or is it likely confined to the development process? Thank you. So everything we do in the ARG to me, let me back up. We have always said that we are not a narrative driven game, right? And when I say by that, it means like we're not like The Last of Us or some incredible single player game where we're going to show you amazing cutscenes and we're going to spend a lot of time doing character development and like forcing you to listen to this deep story. So we are not a narrative game in that sense, but that does not mean we don't have deep narrative. And I think the ARG, the Dirk Sapum, everything that happens in the community, the existence, all of that stuff that lives outside the game but impacts the game is meaningful. And like I think the ARG and what we do with all this is a really good way to introduce you stuff to a lot of things about the existence, a lot of things about how the refiner state was built, a lot of things about how the cleaners came to be and who they are now and who they used to be, and a lot of stuff about the things that influence the gameplay is like a really cool way to do that. And I feel like that's what we've been experiencing the last 48 hours with this last ARG, what you're definitely going to be experiencing over the next week, and then so on. So I don't think it's something that's limited to the development process. I think it's something that's going to be fed and influenced by the game, by the UGC created by the community, and by things that happen outside the community. Like if you look at this one, Mr. Spaceman is the one who kicked all this off by searching out somebody who doesn't want to be found. So I think even the actions of the community impact the lore of the existence in really big ways. And that's what I love about it. It feels and is dynamic, right? It shifts and changes and grows based on what the community does or does not do. So yes, the short answer is yes to that question. It will extend beyond just the development phase. Whiskey Delta says, will you be implementing SBMM once the game is released? For those who don't know, SBMM is skill-based matchmaking. I don't think our game... Will there be UGC modes that are built for SBMM? Maybe. That's up to the creator of that mode. Is DEADROP an SBMM game? I don't think so. Because we are a loadout-driven game, right? It's less about the individual skill of a player and more about what are you bringing into the match. So we talked about this before, is we've looked a lot at of like impacting matchmaking based on like, oh, am I going in fully kitted, right? Am I going in with like a fully kitted sniper rifle with a mod chip enabled and a large backpack and then a heavy helmet and heavy armor and lots of ammo? Then I probably should not be matching with a bunch of people who are going in naked. Not just because I will dominate them, but also because like what benefit do I have to loot bodies that don't have anything, right? So I think we look at matchmaking a lot of that way. But matchmaking is also going to be one of those things that, Alex and the team are going to be tweaking and iterating on throughout development, right? So always be giving feedback on that. We have talked about a ranked mode that might use, different factors when matchmaking. But all that stuff is in flux. But that's our general thinking on it right now. Is like right now we do not matchmake you based on skill. We matchmake you based on games that are available. In the future, we'll probably be matchmaking you based on games that are available and regional and based on your loadout. And then I think there will be other modes that have different matchmaking rule sets that are right for that mode. But generally, I do not see our game as a SBMM game. In regards to blockchain technology, this is Peppermint's question. In regards to blockchain technology, do you see the player economy in minting everything down to the bullet, or do you have plans to keep minted items in a specific category of player obtained item pools? Yeah, I do not, we are not a blockchain game, which means you do not need the blockchain integration to, enjoy the game, which also means this is not a game that leverages the blockchain just because. So that means no, you are not minting every single item in the game. The mass majority of the game has nothing to do with the blockchain. It's much more. Our use of blockchain and leveraging of it is very more intentional and specific. Right? So things that actually have value and meaning to you that you as a player should own can be minted, right? The stuff that doesn't matter, like bullets and just loot that has no really value outside of just using it, has no purpose to even interact with that stuff. ICU says, when will we be expecting a 6.1 update? Do we need a 6.1 update? If they're, how we think about patching is out of necessity. Is there big fixes that need to go in that could be hot fixed? Are there updates we can do? Sometimes a lot of those updates are server side. I know there was already a server patch that went out and we don't even need to update the client. But if there is major things or major iterations that need to go into Snapshot 6 based on your feedback, then we will discuss that and do that. But right now, I don't think there is a 6.1 patch planned because I do not know anything that's been identified that needs to be patched in right now. So let me know. Fill out your feedback form, submit feedback, and then let me know. Is there a potential for Midnight Society API to support data visualization, stat tracking, player rankings? Hopefully one day. This is we just now got a lot of key telemetry into the game. So we do have dashboards that we are using for that stuff now. Eventually, I think that's an Alex question, man. He's in here now, but we haven't really talked about it. But I imagine it's on the table. Eventually, we can release some sort of access to those dashboards and help people visualize it in different ways. But much later. Definitely not a priority right now. Any plan on expanding European player base? Yeah, I'd hope to. You got some European friends? Please bring them along next Friday and then let them know once we open up access passes. That is the biggest thing that drives European servers and European feature sets and all that stuff is increasing our user base in those areas. So when access pass is open again, let's try to drive those regions so that we have the ability to start, dedicating servers and stuff to those areas. King Graves says, hey, Rob, do you guys have people who have worked on racing games to help with the cars in the next snapshot? And the driver view mechanics, will it rave like a specific game that's been made? Also, do you remember me? Yes, I remember you, King Graves. Funny thing with King Graves is we played Fortnite together once or twice or a couple of times. That's it. We played Fortnite together. So I only knew him by his voice. He comes to the Texas event. He comes up to me in the lobby of the hotel and he says, hey, do you remember me? I'm assuming it's because we know each other in real life. We've met in person. And it was just because of Fortnite. What was the question? Well, yeah, yes and no. A lot of the people who worked on the I feel like you're tricking me into talking about vehicles. Yeah. We have a lot of people on the team who are very experienced with vehicle systems, who had a hand in building our vehicle system. That's all I'm going to say on that. Will we see a level system or ranking system implemented soon? Probably not until we start worrying about a ranked mode. Is when we'll start worrying about that stuff. So soon, probably not. Whatever. Let's see. How will we address UGC? All right. Praise Jinx. How will we address UGC with importing models from other games? Example, Kratos and DEADROP. Would that be considered a mod? So that's obviously if you're like modifying local files and you're adding copyrighted materials into your game and you're playing it locally, that's your business. That has nothing to do with us, right? But you would not be able to publish that Kratos character model on any publicly accessible, like in DEADROP, page for other people to download or buy or whatever. So there is a certification process that happens with all UGC in the future. Both to check it that it technically works, that it doesn't violate any copyrights, and that it can be used. But that's only for stuff that you're expecting to distribute to the greater community for them to use on all their devices, right? That has nothing to do with whatever you're doing locally for your own personal, non-commercial needs. I hope that answers the question. Short answer is you won't be able to make and sell Kratos in DEADROP. On the concept of the cars, will we have options to more vehicles in the far future? Yes, you will. Short answer without giving away anything else. Will there be any official creative UGC hub for creators, players to meet up and chat? Docs Arena, for example, would be a great way. I think that's a great idea, and I think somebody should build that. William Morris. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think, I think when it comes to UGC, the sky's the limit, right? Once we get to right now we're focused on gameplay stuff on the UGC, but I think once we get to that place where people are creating original environments and fully original spaces, I think creating social spaces is a really meaningful way to do that. Where are we at? Arctic says a lot of folks did swap to the low settings mode. Some folks even use videos detailing how to do the content itself. Oh no, wait! I want to bounce back up. Arctic says random lore question. There seems to be some confusion regarding the Refiner State Tower and its construction. Go on. We know that DEADROP starts in 2020B, 20 years into the climate wars. Okay. So does that mean the tower started construction in the 80s? If so, when did it complete construction? Adding to that confusion is that Robert Avanti shows that he worked for refiner maintenance through the 1980s up until 2018. So did he work as the tower was being built? Were they built in advance of the incoming climate issues? Asking for perspective and better understanding of the landscape for the new ARG. I think a lot of those answers are about that question is about to be answered very soon. Just so you know. So I will let the people who were involved in the climate wars and the people who were involved in the construction of the refiner state to answer that for you. But don't worry, it is being cleared up. How will you address UGC with importing Oh, that's the one I answered. Will there be a live event for Snapshot 7? If not, I understand. Well, 92, man. 92. Can you comment on what Doc meant by no more tower keys? I don't think we need tower keys anymore. The tower key is open. I think there are different types of access that will be important for the future that do not require tower keys. Any plans to add bosses that require teamwork to take down and reward? There is a lot. The design team and the game team has talked a lot about some really cool things in that area. I don't want to spoil anything, and nothing has been fully concrete yet. So there are definitely good discussions happening around that, especially now that we have concepts like the cleaners and Snapshot 6. That gives us like the foundation to go in a lot of different directions. When can we expect console builds? I think we answered that. We're in discussions with them. As soon as the game gets far enough that we can pass certification on console, that's when it happens. Right now, we're in the pre-alpha access. The further we get along, the more optimized we get along, the easier that becomes. Smaller maps for small lobbies, says Pressure. I think, hopefully we can start seeing some of that stuff with the UGC modes. I would like. Arctic says, I think we addressed this earlier. In one of the teasers of the snapshot, it looks like there's a cloaking technique or some sort of teleport. It is a cloaking technique. So the cleaners do have the ability to cloak themselves. Currently, they used to use it in combat. They don't use it in combat anymore. Now they use it as a way to get out of the sector so that they can get to their vents and exits easier. But it's still in there. You might not have seen it, but it is in there. You guys are down one. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
What's up, everyone? I just had a question in regards of when will there be like massive people being able to play the game? Because I have a Discord with people that want to play, but when they see 7 people in the lobby or 10 and then like 4, they're like, okay, no. And then I want to get I want to get like home from work and be able to grind the game to catch up to like some of the top players like Cairo, iWhiskey2, and some others that have murked me many times. Just to grind, because I know there's some tournaments coming up, and I'm trying to practice, but when it's just discouraging to see like not that many people on the game when I'm trying to practice to get better.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I want to go as big as possible with the next access pass when that opens up, right? I didn't want to open up with Snapshot 6 because we're introducing telemetry, and there's a few key features that I think could require a lot of balancing and iteration, like introducing AI for the first time and stuff like that, and introducing the economy. I want our founders to get in, play around with that, get a lot of data on how like dust consumption and selling dust and pricing and all of that stuff works, because it impacts the core gameplay in a big way, right? So I want to have at least one snapshot still with just the community that we have, which is tower key holders and founders, and then open it up. And the next time that we open it up, I want to go as big as possible. Because like I said earlier in the AMA, that's when we're going to start introducing the ability to have a little bit more of a fragmentation rather than right now where everybody's playing one thing at a time, right? You're either playing Proving Ground or you're playing Sector 3. That will not be the case in the future. So now, well, in the near future, I should say, is the time that I think we need to start opening it up. And I think everybody in this community needs to be a driver of like, you have a Discord that has a lot of people who want in. Like that should be the time that we should be activating each other and empowering each other to be like, all right, everybody we know who wants in, soon will be the time for them to get in. So between now and Snapshot 7, we'll start sort of like building out those tools and abilities and inflows for like not just us, but also guys like you and everybody else who has their own community to start influxing people.
Cool. Yeah, because I had a bunch of people that I bought extra tower keys. People I used to play with back in Halo 2 on the MLG time and Halo 3, they bought tower keys, and then when they see me play it and they're about to get on, it's like 4 people. What? Nah. And they go back to playing like the other games. I'm like, God damn it, I just want to get better at the game.
Yes.
But yeah. Thanks for answering. But hopefully soon.
Nice. It's a terrible mixture.
Yo, hey, what?
Oh,
What?
he's here.
Oh my God. Hey, everyone. Just want to say good shout out. I had a couple questions, but good shout out to you guys and the rest of the dev teams. Coming for all your tags, every single one of you devs, except for Bryce, because you're my boy. Quick question. For some of the variants and players who aren't great at jumping cliffs and climbing things like Joker and Marks and Rec. Is the suit going to be coming in soon? Is it going to be a grappling hook? Have you guys thought about this being added in? Like I'm tired of seeing these guys like die on stream, like Lolo and them, just from falling.
Right.
So just curious.
Yeah, I mean we're looking at all kinds of different gadgets. The zipline booster was the first major traversal one that we added, but there's a whole laundry list of stuff that I know the team's looking at and prototyping. So they're on the list. They're coming.
Awesome. That was pretty much what I was just curious about, because I remember all the gadgets we spoke about before, and I think they need all the help they can get to get up the tower. So that's all. Thank you.
All right, so I don't know if you were paying attention to what I was saying in the conspiracy chat like earlier today, but I brought up a lot of topics, like for the longevity of the game, like for the long-term health of the game. Do you foresee this becoming like something where we can rent our own like cloud space on the servers and have our own like dedicated portion of the game for like a smaller community of our own? Or is this always going to be like there's one refiner state and like it's like to go beyond that we would go to a different game?
No, that is what UGC is all about. So what I talked about in the last question of like soon we're getting to the point where there could be some fragmentation, right? Because like right now everybody's focused on DEADROP. That's the game that we are making, and if you play DEADROP, you're playing in that mode. Once UGC is introduced, there are going to be many things that you could be doing, right? So if you're like, hey, I just want to like maybe you love DEADROP, you just want to tweak a few things, right? You're like, oh, I want DEADROP, but I actually want it to be unlimited respawns because we just want to, just keep playing over and over again and have fun with like my friends, right? Then you could tweak that setting, publish it, invite your friends to it, and you guys are off having your own little thing, right? Or maybe you're like, hey, I really want to play in Sector 3, but I don't want to play a vertical extraction shooter. I want to play Capture the Flag, right? With me and like 8 friends, 4v4. Do it, right? And then publish that, and you guys go play that. So that's what I talked about like soon there will be some fragmentation that's going to be happening on the private modes. So that's the direction we are going. So the short answer is yes, you will have the ability to do that in the future.
Okay, so I have one more question on that front. What about for like the official game mode? Like, are we're influencing the development, right? So like, what if I were to tell you like it would be a great idea if we had this persistent world where the tower is something you can all climb through, and like the top of the tower is where all the best players are going to end up because they've survived like round after round, like because you go up the ladders and you get into the super lift and all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Like what if there was a persistence to the world where it's like you can jump off whenever you want to, but you can keep going up, and as you go up maybe the rare loot starts coming in, maybe you're fighting more players with snipers, maybe you're fighting people that are more kitted out, that sort of thing.
And you're saying changes to like the default mode that everyone's
Yeah.
I mean that is why we are playtesting now. Like that feedback is what drives how this mode changes and grows. And I think the DEADROP that we're playing today is going to look very different than the DEADROP we're playing in 6 months from now because of feedback and telemetry from people playing it. Because we have like I can't even predict how the design of the game is going to change once we introduce sector to sector gameplay, right? Like right now, I feel like we all have a pretty good grasp on how to play Sector 3, but the moment you can move from Sector 3 to some other sector in a single match, like that's going to change things a lot. The moment you can move to multiple sectors in a single match, that's going to change a lot of how we design and iterate and rebalance and the rule sets and the session time. Or as you're saying, is there a session time, right? I know, is Alex still in here? I know Alex hearing a persistent server that never shuts down forever is probably terrifying him at even the prospect of it. But those are the types of discussions that we should be having as a community, right? especially as the game changes over time.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to never shut down. Just like it could be like sort of a soft tournament mode, if that makes sense. Like
Right. Yeah. Once. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You're right. Eventually, there will be nobody. Eventually, there will be one
Yeah,
player
yeah.
always, and then that guy is that he wins the dead drop. Really, you're just talking about like, oh, hey, remove the time restraint to that happening. Right. It's like, oh, in theory, a match could last, an hour if everybody survives.
another idea I had was like we could have perhaps like regional different towers for different parts of the world, and maybe we could even have server versus server happen. Like we build a community around a certain area, and then we kind of raid each other.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff we'll do there, especially once we start introducing those regional servers.
All right. So
Yo.
my question was: is there any confirmation or intent on the game being cross-platform when it comes to console, or are
Yes.
you guys trying to keep? Okay, yes. And then one other quick question is the idea that was thrown around of a group hideout where you can bring friends into like a trio hideout still on the table.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes. We call that the team hideout.
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering if in the future we will get to see more like risk reward, like movement and gear choices in terms of like heavier armor slowing you down and other trade offs like that.
Oh, that's good feedback. I put that in the feedback form if you haven't already. Yeah, put that in. I don't know the answer to it. Like I know that those things have been discussed, but I do not know where Quinn and the design team have settled on whether we want increased armor protection to decrease movement speed. But that's good feedback. I think that's a really good question for everybody in here to sort of debate. Because I don't know where I stand with that. I mean, I do kind of like the thought of like if you're gonna tank yourself up, then you should probably move slower than everybody else. But see, I love those are the types of debates I love. But I would submit it into the feedback form so the team can discuss it and we can open that up as a topic.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for coming. We're going to be doing a lot more community events coming up, so just stay tuned to the Discord. Listen to Lucy as she posts them. I know we have something next Friday that we want you to bring friends to, because like I think right now while we're in this pre-alpha stage and there's a limited number of people who have access to the game, I think these regularly scheduled community events, whether it's Friday night dead drop or Saturday night dead drop or special one-off events we do with devs and creators, like that's our chance to play together as a large group. So pay attention to the schedules, subscribe to the announcements if you can, because that's when we're going to have the higher player count numbers up until we open the next access pass.